Hey, welcome back to Inside Indiana Overtime. I'm Alex McCarthy with Inside Indiana. This is Robby Howard. You know him. You've seen him on these before, but he is now Robby Howard of Inside Indiana.
Yes.
He is officially on the team, and he will be. Obviously, he's written a few things. He's on the thread. He's on the board, and now he's officially on the video. Robby, welcome to the team.
Yes, glad to be here.
Yeah.
Glad to officially be here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, and the here is Assembly Hall, where we saw Indiana easily beat a Kennesaw State team that they should have easily beaten. It was 90-66, never really close. Kennesaw State led by 2 at like the 17-40.
4-6.
Yeah, and then Indiana the talent gap was too great, and Indiana just kind of ran away with it. Yogi Ferrell had a huge game. I think he had 16 in the first half.
Yep.
Ended up with 25, which is one short of his career high. We've seen Ferrell play really well. He scored in double digits every game this season, but the last couple games he's really, really played well. Robby, have you seen any difference with Yogi, or what have you seen from him the past couple games?
I think that it started tonight. He had 2 layups to start the game. He got IU's first 4 points on 2 layups, which were aggressive layups in which he was making an effort to get to the basket.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't just settling for an outside jumper. And I think he finished 3 of 6 from 3-point range tonight. But he took his threes in rhythm. It wasn't just threes that were randomly taken. He took them in the rhythm of the offense, and so I think that his jump shots were a lot better tonight. I think it just came down to him attacking.
Yeah.
Is what it really was.
Yeah, and he was efficient once again, because we've seen him. He's scored quite a bit this season, but he's had games where he's like 5 for 15 or things like that. But tonight he was 8 for 12, I think, 3 for 6 from behind the arc, and
6 of 7 on free throws.
Yeah. So he was very. He took a lot of shots, but he made a lot of shots, which we haven't seen all the time from Ferrell this year, where he's kind of feels like he's had to maybe take on a little bit more than he has to. But and like you said, there's a lot more rhythm to his game right now. There's a lot more rhythm to the offense when Ferrell's playing well.
And he said that the biggest thing for him right now is he's just playing a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
And Crean said that also, that what he needs to do to continue to improve is just to work on the consistency. He's put together back-to-back pretty good games now. I think Friday he had 16 and 8, 16 points, 8 assists.
Yeah.
And so he's put together some really good games here. And tonight especially, I thought he looked more like a leader on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times when he was yelling at guys in the huddle and correcting defensive mistakes a lot when they got in those huddles. And he was just playing more like this was his team. It seems like he's finally taking over a bit.
Yeah, and it does seem like that there's a little bit of a because we came into this year obviously thinking that Sheehy and Ferrell, who would be the guy who was really the center of that huddle, the center of that, and it looks more and more like Ferrell, and it's a little bit easier for a point guard to do that because he is bringing the ball up, he is setting the offense up and doing everything like that, and it looks like he's certainly starting to take over, and he's taking this team now into Big Ten play. They're 10-3 in the non-conference. Those 10 wins came against some not so great competition. Obviously, Kennesaw State and Nicholls State this weekend, where neither of those games were ever really in doubt. They weren't, at times they weren't pretty, but it just never felt like they were tested that much. And then the handful of teams, UConn, Syracuse, Notre Dame, and to an extent a couple of the other teams, the teams that really were going to test them beat them. So they won the games they were supposed to win, except for maybe Notre Dame. I think they were favored in that game, and lost the games they were supposed to lose. So it's kind of maybe what we expected in the non-conference. In terms of your expectations with what this team, where you thought this team would be through 13 games, where are they here?
Well, I don't think anyone expected them to beat Syracuse.
Right.
Really, I don't think anyone probably expected them to beat UConn, and they only lost that game by 1.
Right,
remember correctly.
It came down to the last.
So they were in the game against UConn. Probably the biggest loss looking at is the Notre Dame game. That was a game that they were supposed to win. They didn't win, and they weren't really. It was 79-72, but it wasn't really close.
It didn't feel close.
Yeah, Notre Dame sort of dominated them. That was the one game, and you're going to have bad games. This is a young team.
Yeah.
Very inexperienced, and so you're going to have bad games. I don't think that it's anything to get concerned about. It was interesting to hear Crean talk about that in the postgame when someone asked him what he thought of the non-conference, and he was like, well, I haven't thought of that yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now it's the time to be
Yeah.
thinking about it because it's over. And so it was just sort of interesting. It'll be interesting to see where this team's at. I think we haven't seen them against their level of competition, really. Syracuse is a team that's much better than them. I think Syracuse and IU are on very different levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, Notre Dame may be one of those teams that is more on IU's level, but for some reason, whatever, they just didn't have it when they played Notre Dame. So
the lights were too bright.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see in Big Ten play when IU plays an Iowa, a Purdue, and Illinois.
Right.
Teams like
middle
that.
of the pack teams.
Yeah.
And they do start with Illinois, obviously on New Year's Eve. Well, on the day of New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
At 3:00. Which I like a little bit better than, they played night games on New Year's Eve the past couple of years.
No fun.
No. So they're gonna travel to Champaign. We won't be there. I don't know. Are you going? Okay. We won't be there. But there will be plenty of people out there covering the game. We'll be covering it from home, from our homes. So it'll be kind of fun to join in on the conversation. We'll all be kind of in the same boat, watching on TV. But yeah, like you said, it'll be interesting to see if they're ready. They've had back-to-back games where they've turned the ball over 20 times, which is really, that's
pretty
not
bad.
That's not something you want, ramping up to Big Ten play.
Yeah.
You want to be going in the other direction. They've been better at assisting on buckets. Those numbers have kind of consistently gone up, but the turnovers. When you have 18 assists and you have more turnovers than assists in a game, that's really not.
When
a good
you have
sign.
a season high in assists,
yes,
and still have more turnovers, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the really big question marks for this team, and a lot of them are really ugly turnovers. They're travels,
out of control.
Yeah, and just throwing the ball all over the place, not looking like they know exactly where they're going with the ball. So that's really the thing I'm looking for more than anything else in Big Ten play. Robby, what kind of wrapping this up, what are you looking for in Big Ten play in the first couple games at least?
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see how Noah Vonleh does against guys who are experienced in the Big Ten. We definitely saw Cody Zeller come out and struggle his first couple of games as a freshman in the Big Ten. So I'm really interested to see how Vonleh looks against legitimate post players. I think that'll be really interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how IU's defense holds up. That's been sort of a source of concern at times. The communication, there's been some communication issues. We even saw that today. There were a lot of times when obviously Kennesaw State was never a threat to win this game, but there were definitely times when there were breakdowns and guys were yelling at each other. And I think that communication, especially like we've said before with a young team, it's key. And it'll be interesting to see when you're on the road in a place like Illinois to start the Big Ten season. It's going to be a pretty crazy environment. None of these guys have played in the Big Ten, so it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's New Year's Eve, and that's 8 days. It's kind of a long break for this team, over the Christmas holiday. But
they deserve it.
They do. Yeah, exactly. And we deserve it too. We've been working hard. You've probably been cheering hard. So enjoy your break, enjoy your holidays, whatever you celebrate. For Robby Howard, I'm Alex McCarthy with Inside Indiana, and we'll talk to you later.